and welcome to yet another adventure of how I spent the apocalypse. Now, with the weather and everything that's going on, as you might have guessed, there's not a whole lot of do-it-yourself projects that are going on right now, except for keeping warm and waiting for the snow to melt. Alright, so I decided that I would read you guys a story. Now, let me give you a little history on this. Okay, so back when I used to be semi-famous and make some money, I used to run around the country and do conventions. And at the conventions, the different writers do readings. They do live readings. So I started doing this thing where before we would go to a convention, one of the bigger conventions, I would write on Facebook, I would write a story in segments. And these stories that I wrote on, that I have written on Facebook periodically, I never really thought about them. I just sat down and wrote them. I had a basic idea that I probably came up with walking around the yard, and then I basically set them, and they were first draft stories. And so what I would do is I would do one right before I would go to one of the bigger conventions, and then I would take that story and do it all together as a reading. Well, of course, we're not doing conventions now because of the pandemic, and last week was cold, 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 and snow, 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 and everybody was stuck in, and blah, blah, blah. So I wrote one of these stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it for everyone because I don't have anything else to show you guys. So there you go. I call this When Dead Things Talk. It's a farm. I live on a farm. We raise crops, we eat, we raise animals, we eat. It's what you do when you live on a farm. Killing something to eat should never be easy. Something is dying so that you can eat. I raise animals, feed them, care for them, and then the day comes when it's time to kill them because it would just be weird to eat stuff when it's still alive, much less cook it first. I mean, how would you get a chicken to stand still for being roasted alive? That wouldn't be right. And before you lose your minds because I raise and butcher my own animals, if you're a vegan, fire away. But if you eat meat like I do, well, the only difference between you and me is that I don't make someone else do my dirty work. I don't know what started the trouble. Could have started because COVID had us all locked in and trying to raise even more of our food than we normally did because, let's face it, we still don't know what the hell is going to happen next, and it turns out you really can't be too prepared. It might have started because this place sits on some weird dimensional gateway, or an old energy well, or something to do with the cave. Some shit like that. Because as we know, weird shit happens here. Old ancient Spanish guy under the floor, gremlins in the front yard, and occasional alien visitations. Some crazy shit is always happening here. If I'm honest, I have no fucking idea why. Just lucky that way, I guess. Anyway, I wasn't as weirded out as most would have been when a disembodied voice started talking to me in the chicken yard. And see, that would have been the end of that segment. And if you're one of the people that has either heard me read one of these at a convention, or you follow me on Facebook and you've watched these stories appear, then you know how I write them. This is a first draft story that I just spit onto Facebook. So, I'm either a genius or a dumbass. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on with the story. So, now I have to go back and read the last line. Anyway, I wasn't as weirded out as most would have been when a disembodied voice started talking to me in the chicken yard. And really, why would I be? Strange shit seems normal around here on good days, and right here in what we all hope is towards the end of the COVID epidemic, nothing is really normal. So some voice speaking to me out of thin air just sort of felt like it was par for the course, if you know what I mean. So what did that first voice say? Do you miss me? Do you miss me? I miss you. Do you miss me? I looked around, didn't see anyone. Fred, are you fucking with me, man? Why did I suspect Fred? Because part of the cave system that starts under the house that he lives in runs right under the chicken yard. Hell, once when I was digging a post hole in the back pasture, I actually hit an air pocket that blew air up at me. Took me 6 bags of concrete to set that post after I found the cave. I knew why. Hell, it's a wonder the whole damn place hasn't been swallowed in a giant sinkhole. And after the last 12 months, seriously, I'd sort of been expecting it at any moment. It wasn't just the COVID or the Nazis running amok. That would have been bad enough. But we'd managed to have one bit of crap after another on top of those things. Just a whole list of deep shit that would have sucked if there wasn't a pandemic and Nazis running amok. "Who's Fred?" the voice asked, and then there was panting and a couple of barks. "Spud, is that you?" Spud had been my favorite dog of all time. And of course our pet cemetery was in the chicken yard, so it made sense that he was talking to me there. Well, maybe sense is the wrong word. Here's the thing. When he was alive, I never heard Spud talk. If I did, that would have made me crazy, right? So how was I supposed to know if it was his voice or not? The panting and barking sounded like him, but would your dog come back and talk to you in a language you could understand? It was a good question, and one I thought on good and hard as I waited for an answer to my question. There was some more barking, and I checked really quick to make sure it wasn't just my living dogs doing what they did best. You know, barking at frogs farting and butterflies. Such shit as that. They were on the other side of the fence sleeping, so much for dogs being tuned into dead shit doing its thing. "Is that you, Spud?" I asked again. "'Cause as you all know, one dog's bark doesn't really sound like another. They all have their voice." Yes, yes, yes. Did you miss me? I missed you." "What's it sound like when a dog talks human words?" "Well, just the way you think it would. Sound sort of a cross between barking and that deep breaking into high-pitched sound that boys make in puberty." "Hey, boy. Yeah, I missed you. You were smart and good. The dogs I have now are stupid assholes. I gotta warn you, I ain't the only dead thing come back to life. And some of these guys, well, they is pissed." He got further and further away, the barking. Then he was gone. Don't ask me how I know he was gone. I just did. Kind of how I knew I didn't want to be talking to anything else that was dead. That night I couldn't really fall asleep, mostly because, as we all have these last many months now, I was waiting for that next shoe to drop. And my mind was, of course, thinking a billion things all at once. And among them, how people say they love all their kids the same, and how I always think, really? You love the kid who works his ass off, pays their own bills, never asks you for anything, is always there when you need them, exactly the same as the kid who lays around on their dead ass, spending your money and doing nothing because they feel entitled? Because if that's the case, why does the first kid even try? And it's totally your fault the other one has lead in his ass, because no doubt you expected nothing of them and gave them a trophy for participating, while you expected the other kid to do an entire list of chores just to be worthy to fix their own dinner, which sort of more or less proves you never really loved these kids the same. And no doubt this is why the first kid is a workaholic, because after all, nothing they ever did was good enough, and they always had to take a back seat to the worthless kid. But I'm not bitter. Anyway, I don't love the dogs I have now like I loved Spud, because Spud was always there for me. He didn't bark unless there was a damn good reason. He didn't shit in the paths I'd have to walk in. He seemed to know just when I needed to pet him and when I was too busy for him, unlike the dogs I have now, who, like Spud, are rescue dogs. These dogs shit right where I have to walk. They bark all the fucking time for no reason. They are in my face when I am trying to work, and they aren't there when I just need a friend. In short, I love these dogs, but I certainly don't need them, and if I'm honest, they detract from, not add to my life. Neither of them would come back from the dead to warn me of impending deadish horde coming for me. And I would love the good kid more than the worthless one, damn it! After all, I love my old dog more than my new ones. That and a billion other things were going through my head until I finally fell into a fitful sleep, which lasted about 30 minutes, till I was rudely awakened by the crowing of dozens of roosters all at once, and then, well, then I knew I was screwed, and I don't mean in a happy, fun way. The roosters just keep crowing, and so I think maybe it isn't something weird. Maybe something is after my chickens. That was stupid, really, because I only had 2 roosters, not 100 gazillion, which the more I heard it, the more I knew it was even more roosters than I thought I heard at first. I ran out to the chicken yard, and not too surprisingly, both of my dogs are barking. I wonder if maybe they hear the roosters, but no, I hear the train beyond the din of roosters and dogs. I walk all the way out to the chicken yard. The noise is louder, but there is nothing going on out there. Everything is asleep, and where they should be. I cover my ears. It only helps a little. I check everything twice and try to find where the noise is coming from, but just when I think I'm getting close, it stops. I grumble a lot. The dogs are still barking. I yell at them to shut the fuck up, which I don't know why I do that. It's an exercise in futility. They never shut up, and when I tell them to, and in fact, the big one starts barking more and running around in huge circles till her clumsy ass runs smack into me and knocks me to the ground. I cuss her good, while she wags her tail and grins because she thinks I'm happy with her, which, like I said, this dog is a stupid asshole. I get up and don't even try to teach the dogs anymore. I give up on them and go in the house where I have to change my pajama pants because, of course, when the dog knocked me down, I pissed myself. Hello, I'm female and over 60. You gotta love being a woman. Am I right, ladies? I get cleaned up and go to bed, and now I'm just wide awake. And, of course, everything is quiet. God, I hate my life. I get up in the morning. Notice I didn't say I woke up in the morning because that would imply that I actually got some sleep, which I did not. I bundle up because I know it is turdsicle cold outside. What's a turdsicle, you ask? Well, obviously you never lived with an outhouse in a cold-ass winter. It's the kind of cold that no matter how many clothes you put on and how many layers, you are still freezing your ass off the whole time you are out in it. And when you have livestock, that's at least 45 minutes twice a day. And do they appreciate? No, they do not. They go out of their way to tear up shit and run into you and basically make every single thing you have to do take twice as long. And the whole time there isn't 1 minute that my hands aren't so cold they hurt. They do fun things, like you have to haul them water because everything is frozen, and the little dog will jump on me so that water splashes all over my pants, and the big dog will run into the bucket or me, getting me even wetter. The goats will stand right where I need to put the water, the hay, or the feed, and make it near impossible to put such things anywhere but on the ground, which of course doesn't work. And apparently chickens will come back from the dead and keep you up all night. And so, until next time, that's right! I'm going to do it in parts! You're going to have to come back! Goodbye!